to Unity of Wilmington, a spiritual community geographically located in Wilmington, North Carolina, but here with you around the world, celebrating our oneness with God, here to remind you of three very important things about you. One, you are a beloved expression of God. Two, you are here for a holy purpose. And three, you are where you are by divine appointment. You are at the right place, at the right time, right now.
You've got to get up every morning with a smile on your face and show the world all the love in your heart. People gonna treat you better. You will find, yes, you will. You are beautiful as you feel. Waiting at the station on a work day, wind blowing, I've got nothing to do but watch the passers-by. Mirrored in their faces, I see frustration growing. They don't see it showing. Why do I? You've got to get up every morning with a smile on your face and show the world all the love in your heart. People gonna treat you better. You will find, yes, you will. You are beautiful as you feel. I have often asked myself the reason for the sadness in a world where tears are just a lullaby. If there is an answer, maybe love can cure the madness, maybe not. Oh, but we can try. You've got to get up every morning with a smile on your face and show the world all the love in your heart. People gonna treat you better. You will find, yes, you will. You are beautiful. You are beautiful. You are beautiful as you feel.
You're as beautiful as you feel. Tune in for just a moment and see how you feel. Just take your own temperature of beauty or handsomeness if you're more comfortable with that term. But take your own temperature and see what you feel like. This song is perfect for what we're going to talk about today, which is the game of life and how to play it. The game of life. This comes from Florence Scovel Shinn. She was a New Thought writer in the 1920s. As a matter of fact, in 1925, Florence Scovel Shinn published her first book called The Game of Life and How to Play It. Prior to that, she had been an artist who illustrated a lot of children's work. She had been married to an artist. She was an artist. She had come from a family that she was proud that it had had lineage all the way back to the Mayflower. So remember, this is the 1920s, and the culture in the world was different. And when her husband came to her and said, "I want a divorce," what Florence Scovel Shinn did was say, "Okay," and basically she reinvented herself. She took the event. She practiced one of the things I'm going to talk about today, which is non-resistance. She practiced what she believed in, and she moved herself to New York City, and she began a new career as a teacher of metaphysics and as a person who did spiritual counseling. Florence Scovel Shinn was never a Unity minister, but she spent a lot of time teaching in the Unity Center in New York. And people would come 2 and 3 times a week and would listen to her talks, which were very much off the cuff. And she also answered questions that people had. And she brought in new people to speak with her students and to share with her students. One of those people was Emmett Fox. He had just moved over to the United States, and she met him, and they delighted in each other's ideas, and she brought him to Unity Center in New York, and he did a few classes, and that, some people believe, is how he got some of his start. But the students loved him, and the students loved Florence Scovel Shinn. I actually discovered Florence Scovel Shinn when I was becoming a licensed Unity teacher, and someone asked me if I had read her work, and I said no, and they gifted me with The Game of Life and how to play it. It's a very thin book, and it's a very easy to read book, and it has a ton of stories illustrating her ideas. And I want to share some of her ideas with you because I'm excited about those ideas. And I want to tell you that some of my excitement from those ideas re-emerged about 3 weeks ago when I was at my chiropractor doing my self-care, and I was reading her bookshelves. And on her bookshelves was the complete works of Florence Scovel Shinn. And that began a conversation and inspired me to bring this information forth again. And I love it when I get inspired to talk about something because it's going to come fully from my heart. And it's going to be alive in me. And my invitation is to listen and see if it comes alive in you, to try it on, to have some fun with it. So Florence Scovel Shinn had 4 ideas of the areas of life that she wanted to work in. And they were these: health, wealth, love, and self-expression. Health, wealth, love, and self-expression. All of these are important to me. I think that these 4 assist us in creating a well-rounded life. Now, you could put lots of subheadings in each one of those if you wanted to, but I think these 4 ideas make for a very well-rounded life. I want to experience health and vibrant health. As a matter of fact, I believe that it is my divine birthright. I believe that it's the Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom. It is the consciousness of health and wealth and love and self-expression that is powerful for each of us and available to each of us. But Florence Scovel Shinn felt that the game of life was understanding and applying. It takes both pieces, understanding and applying spiritual principle. And what she believed is that the Hebrew Scriptures and the Christian Scriptures showed us what those principles were. But the most important principle that she believed in and that she thought the Hebrew Scriptures and the Christian Scriptures showed us was about giving and receiving. And she believed that Jesus taught that law, which she calls it, of giving and receiving. Some people call it karmic law. You can call it the law of giving and the law of receiving. Some people see those as separate. Buddha used to say that if you are not able to receive something, then you're also not able to give something. So they get interconnected and they get intertwined, those ideas of giving and receiving. But what Florence Scovel Shinn called it was the boomerang effect. So I'm going to ask you to think about Australia for a moment. The game of life is a game of boomerangs. If you've ever played with a boomerang, when you throw it correctly, it simply comes back. And you throw it correctly again, and it simply comes back. And I say if you throw it correctly, because I've had the experience of throwing a boomerang incorrectly, and it didn't come back. But we can liken that to, are we applying spiritual law in the way it was meant to be applied? Or if you're like me, sometimes you decide that you're going to see if you can do it your way instead of spiritual law way. And I have tried that. And I'm here to tell you it does not work. But what it does do for me is teach me something. It teaches me how to come into alignment with spiritual law. We know spiritual law as what is the law of mind action. Well, our thoughts and our feelings that we hold in our mind produce similar thoughts and feelings. Some people will say what we think and feel is what we bring about. So what we think about and feel about is what we bring about in terms of similar thoughts and feelings. So Florence Scovel Shinn goes on to say, our thoughts, deeds, and our words return to us sooner or later with astonishing accuracy. And my experience is the more I practice spiritual principle, the more I am present in my own consciousness, the more I see that return come much faster. For instance, if I were to put out something hateful, a message of hate to someone, I would probably get one back fairly quickly and fairly accurately. Somebody would say pretty much the same thing to me as I had said to them. If I put out a message of lack, I'm going to see the result of that message of lack fairly quickly. And it will come on its own time frame, but it boomerangs. My thoughts, my actions, my deeds are going to boomerang back to me. That's what Jesus talked about as the law of giving and receiving. What we sow, we reap, is how it's put in the Bible. So Florence Scovel Shinn talks about a woman who would pretend that she was a widow all her growing up life, and she would dress in black, and she would put on the hat, and she would have these elaborate memorial services for her husbands in her imagination. And the woman met somebody, got married, and it wasn't long after that that she was actually truly planning a memorial service. And what Florence Scovel Shinn said to her was, your words, your thoughts, and your deeds have come back to you. They've come back to you. So I have taken a practice of when something begins to come at me that I'm uncomfortable with or something that I don't want, I begin to think, where did I do that very same thing? And it's simply boomeranging back to me. Well, it's not only what we might consider difficult or discomfort or uncomfortable things that come back to us. When we put out love, love comes back to us. When we put out harmony, harmony comes back to us. What we put out is what we return. So this has brought myself, and I'm going to invite it to bring you to an awareness of what your thinking and feeling are moment to moment. Is that a thought I want to put out? Is a question I ask myself. Do I want to hold on to that thought? And the beautiful thing about thoughts is we can simply change the thought. We can think a better feeling thought. We can think a thought that has a greater degree of consciousness in frequency to it. And I want to be somebody who begins to look at, is this what I want to come back to me? If I'm driving down the street and I am impatient and I start honking at people, do I want that to come back to me? No. So what do I need to do? I'm feeling the impatience emerge inside of me, and I'm thinking, wow, this is my feeling and this is the thought connected to the feeling. What am I going to actually put into action? And what I want to put into action is a few breaths and to remind myself to have a better feeling thought. Oh, I don't have to be impatient. I have plenty of time. Time expands to meet my every need. And I can relax my impatience. I don't have to get rid of it. I can relax it through love. Loving myself. Oh, I wonder where that's coming from. Loving myself for feeling impatient. Having a better thought, time expands to meet my every need. And then I can commit to being where I'm going on time. Or I could simply ask myself the question, why am I in such a hurry in this moment? What is that about? Sometimes I'm in a hurry in this moment because I'm not being very conscious and I'm going with the flow of traffic and the traffic is going really fast and we're over speed limit. And I can think, wow, is this what I want to be doing? Am I really in this much hurry? And I've simply done it because I've unconsciously tapped into what's going on around me. I've taken in what's happening around me. Instead of standing fully in my own consciousness, of self-expression. And so all I have to do is bring my presence, bring my awareness to what I'm doing, notice whether it's coming from within me or I'm giving in to the pressures that are around me. And I can begin to make a conscious, clear decision. And I believe that's what a lot of life is about. How do I bring my conscious awareness to this moment to make a clear decision from the consciousness? And I want my consciousness to be one of love. That's where I want to come from. Now, Florence Scovel Shinn believes that the rules of life are that we need to have faith, that we need to live faith, that we need to be non-resistant to life, which is what she demonstrated when she moved from where she was living, moved into New York City after a life event, and began a whole new career. She had courage, but she also had faith, and then love. So the rules that we can play by are faith, non-resistance to what's happening around us, and love. Well, could you change that, Chris? Thank you. So what Florence Scovel Shinn is teaching is that when I employ spiritual law, I open the way for the divine design of my life to manifest. Let the genius within me now be released. Let me see clearly the perfect plan. Let's start at the bottom here, the perfect plan. What is the perfect plan? Well, Jesus taught that Papa, as he called God, Papa and I are one. And if Papa and I are one, you and Papa are one. So we are all one with God. So what is the perfect plan? The perfect plan is that we experience as much good as we possibly can receive. And see, here's that law of giving and receiving again. How much good am I willing to receive in my life? How much love, how much wealth, how much joy, how much harmony? But we could also look at how much pain am I willing to receive? How much discomfort, how much fear am I willing to live in? It operates on the full spectrum of life, this law. How much am I willing to live with? But then here's the next step. We have to make that decision for ourselves. And it's going to be uniquely made for each of us. And the next step is, what do I need to do to make a shift, to make a change? What do I need to put into action? Jesus also taught, ask and it will be given. Seek and you will find. Ask. We have to begin to ask. We can ask ourselves, and we can ask the universe. We can ask others. And the first place I would start is with my imagination and my intuition. Intuition really means about going within to find out what I most want. Do I want this pain that I've been living in? Or am I willing to do something different? Based on my answer, yes or no. And if the answer is, do I want this pain, this discomfort, this hurt, this, you fill in your blank of whatever your this is, do I want to continue this? And then I need to answer that question. If the answer is yes, I'm going to continue it, then there's nothing needed. But if the answer is no, I want something more, I want something different for myself, then I can sit in meditation. I can sit in the silence, or I can look for a sign, what Florence Scovel Shinn calls leads. I call them signs. And the way I like to phrase it is I'm looking for a sign that is so clear even I cannot miss it, because sometimes I miss the signs. I want a sign so clear even I cannot miss it. And then I'm going to sit in meditation. Meditation is about coming to know ourselves, getting used to ourselves, coming to know ourselves, to understand who and what we are. And so then what Florence Scovel Shinn teaches is that we don't decide in advance how we want it to be, but we sit in meditation and we look for those divine flashes, what in unity we would call the divine idea. We listen from within, listening for what do I want to shift in my life? What do I need to shift in my life? What could I shift in my life so that my life opens up to be a different life? You know, we could be having the absolute most positive, most best life that we think we are having, and yet we're in an infinite universe, and God is infinite. And so what limits have I put on myself is one of my favorite questions. How have I limited myself? And so I begin to ask myself in meditation, what more might I experience that would bring me joy? What more might I experience that would bring me harmony and peace? What more might I experience? And as I'm willing to do that, I'll get the flash of, this is it. This is your next step. And that's that intuition, that inner guidance that Florence Scovel Shinn talks about. And then as I step forward from that intuition and act upon it, then I'll see what opens up for me. It's a form of giving up a good life for a better life, of being open to infinite spirit, which is what Florence Scovel Shinn calls God, being open to infinite spirit within me to know that I could be infinite and unlimited, that the only block within myself is me. And she calls that block most often fear. If we truly believed that we're both divine and human in expression, fully divine and fully human, if we all believed that we had the full capacity of God within us, we would not experience fear. So when I experience fear, instead of making myself wrong, what I do is recognize that this is coming from a part of myself that is looking at the world literally. And that would be the conscious mind. There's 3 elements of the conscious mind. The conscious mind is in the middle. There's 3 elements of the mind here, not the conscious mind, but 3 elements of the mind. The conscious mind is the part of our mind. Some people call it the moral mind, or the conscious, or the carnal mind. I actually like to think about it. It's just a part of us. It's not good, it's not bad, it's not right, it's not wrong. It's how we utilize it. The conscious mind is the part of our minds that see the world the way it is. The subconscious mind, which I actually have over this because this is how she puts it, subconscious mind, conscious mind, superconscious mind. The subconscious mind is the part of ourselves that take in everything and store it in our brains. So every experience, every thought, every feeling that we have are stored in our brains. Oftentimes, in time, we forget that we have those thoughts and feelings and experience stored there because we're living more in the present moment. But the conscious mind, the subconscious mind, has a lot of power. It just does not know how to direct itself. So we have the conscious mind that looks at the world and looks only as it is, looks at appearances. The subconscious mind has these experiences stored up in our brains, in our bodies, for all the things that have happened to us. And then the superconscious mind, which we in Unity would call divine mind. And remember, we are part of divine mind. Divine mind is the I am. Divine mind is what some people call the Christ within, and that's how the Bible often talked about it, the Christ within. It is the Christ within that does the work. But we have to do our part in order for that work to happen within us. So if I'm encountering somebody and they're reminding me of, say, my mother, that is my work to do, to be able to separate the person who's in front of me with an experience from the past. And if I only look at my conscious mind, my experience in that moment, the appearance is this person is acting like my mother. Now, I may like it or I may not like it, but in this case, I'm thinking, I don't like the way this person's acting because they're reminding me of my mother. Some of us, at times, have tried to get that other person to change. And how well did that work? We've tried to get someone else to change. But when we go, oh, this is an appearance, I'm projecting my thoughts about my mother onto the other person. I'm projecting my thoughts of something I don't like on the other person, and I want you to change so that I can bring it back home to myself. Look at my subconscious, which is beginning to become conscious, and go, oh, remember that experience with your mother when blah, blah, blah happened, whatever blah, blah, blah is. When that happened, wow, there is something in me looking for healing. Instead of trying to change the other person, there is something in me that is seeking healing. So I can sit in meditation and I can move into alignment with the superconscious mind, with what I would call divine mind. And I can invite the healing to happen because we know, we teach, and the Bible teaches, and Jesus taught that God is love. And this is where love comes in. I could be resistant to this experience with this other person who's reminding me of my mother, or I could practice non-resistance. I can bless them and bless them in a way that prospers them, not in bless your sweet little heart like we do in the South sometimes, but truly from the heart, bless them. I wish you well. I want the best for you because I want the best for me. Remember the law of giving and receiving? I want the best for you because I want the best for me. I don't like how you're being, mostly because it's reminding me of something inside of myself that I don't like. So I need to come home to myself, to bless you, to mark the experience complete, to maybe even send you a thank you card that you have shown me something within myself that's unhealed. And then come home to me. Let the divinity of me be fuller than the experience that I once had. Let the divinity of me, which is love, love the part of me that had been hurt, that had maybe been angered, that felt hopeless, helpless, or powerless. Let love embrace and infuse in such a way that I change. And the moment I change, I am going to see the person differently. So often we have this backwards. We try to get other people to be who we want them to be, rather to look at when something happens outside of ourselves, instead of trying to make it as we would like it, to really look within. What is going on inside of me in the form of self-expression? What is going on inside of me that my subconscious has been stimulated or triggered or invited forward? That I need to bring past the appearance in my consciousness and look for, how do I resolve this? How do I bring this into alignment with my divinity, which is love? Another way to say, when I have been triggered from outside, how do I bring myself in alignment with love and live in that consciousness? Well, one of the ways is through the power of our words. Would you change that again, Chris? Thank you. By Matthew, the author of Matthew teaches, by your words you are justified, and by your words you are condemned. The power of the spoken word. Charles Fillmore teaches this. Emily Cady, one of the textbook people of unity, authors of unity, teach this. Florence Scovel Shinn taught this. She just taught this in a different way. Chris, could you change it again, please? She said, words and thoughts are a tremendous vibratory force which mold our body and affairs, which we can release. So words and thoughts are a tremendous vibration. They assist us in recognizing where we are in consciousness, but they're not stagnant. They don't have to be. They're actually such that we can shift and change. We can think that better feeling thought. We can go within and look for, where am I being triggered? We can be conscious and mindful of our words. Our words have power. We can use our imagination. We are created in the image, the imagination that we can use to call forth the image of love, or we can call forth the image of harm to another person. But when we are practicing giving and receiving, when we are practicing our faith, knowing that we are fully taken care of, when we are in alignment, and when we are coming into alignment, when we are practicing spiritual principle, when we don't resist what is occurring around us, and our come from is a consciousness of love, then we are in the action of releasing, and through our spoken word, we can draw ourselves to all that is ours by divine right. We can use those spiritual powers, capacities, faculties, so that we are bringing what is necessary to us through divine right. We can bless and prosper and see the wholeness in ourselves first, and bless and prosper and see the wholeness in another. We can know that if something comes to us, it is ours, but if it doesn't come to us, it is not ours by divine right. Florence Scovel Shinn tells the story about a woman who has fallen deeply and madly in love with a man she calls A.B. And the woman comes and she plays Florence Scovel Shinn and she says, would you treat, another word for affirmation, would you treat for me for this man to fall in love with me? And Florence Scovel Shinn, who is practicing spiritual principle, says, here's what I'm willing to do for you. I will treat that the man that would be the best for you, that would be yours by divine right, comes into your life. And so she did an affirmation, something to the effect of, Infinite Spirit, this woman, whatever her name was, comes forth in a relationship with a man that is hers by divine right. And so a couple of weeks go by, and the woman calls Florence Scovel Shinn up, and the woman says, I've been around A.B. quite a bit, and he just doesn't have the same allure for me that he did. And so they talk about it a little bit, and they continue the treatment of bringing forth a relationship that is hers by divine right, that is perfect and right for her. And then a few weeks later, she calls Florence Scovel Shinn up again, and she says, oh my goodness, I have to tell you, I have met a man, and he is enamored with me. He thinks I am exactly his ideal and what he wants. And so eventually they do fall in love, and eventually they get married. It takes releasing sometimes what we think we want. And there's nothing wrong with thinking we want something, but it takes releasing what we think we want to being open to what is best for us, what is the highest and best for us, and then speaking the words about the highest and best. I have to say, I'm one of these people who tried to have a relationship with somebody that I was enamored with who was not equally enamored with me. And it was painful. But what it did was it allowed me to look at where was I being resistant, that I wanted someone who didn't want me back. Where was my self-esteem in that? And I was trying to force the issue, so I wasn't living a non-resistance to what was happening. And there was a lot of pain. But what got to happen was I was willing to look at the appearance of things, look at consciousness. I was willing to look at my subconscious. What is driving me to this? What is going on inside of me that I am trying to create something that is not happening with ease, that I'm trying to get someone to love me who didn't. And then I was able to look at a lot of things from my past and to shift through some of that old subconscious material of experience that I had had throughout my life and make a new decision. And that new decision came when I learned how to sit in meditation, when I learned how to get in alignment with what was, to practice non-resistance, to bless her on her way, to do so with love. And that was a challenge to me at the time. I've grown some since then, but that was a big challenge for me at the time because those subconscious programmings came out, and it was difficult and it was painful. And I'm grateful that I had a group of friends who were spiritual to support and nourish me, but also to say, look, you need to look at what you're doing. And so as I moved into superconsciousness, as I moved into love, I could learn, and it took time and it took energy to learn how to love myself such that I could draw myself to someone who loved me in the same manner that I loved. To be able to do that work. And that is the game of life, to be able to do that work and then to proclaim with our words, to proclaim with our whole being what we truly want. Chris, would you change the slide again? So, this is Florence Scovel Shinn, one of her famous affirmations. If you're interested in her, there's several Facebook pages about her where people are actually utilizing her principles and utilizing her ideas and working with each other to support each other to play the game of life, to engage, to not only have knowledge, but to engage spiritual principle. And if you look on the internet under Florence Scovel Shinn affirmations, there are hundreds and hundreds of affirmations that she has put forth. And this is one that I pulled off yesterday that I really like. I am in perfect harmony with the working of the law. That's who I want to be. I want to live in spiritual principle. I am in perfect harmony with the working of the law. For I know that infinite intelligence knows nothing of obstacles, time or space. It knows only completion. And so when I'm willing to stand in faith, to be non-resistant, and to live in love, I am living in the outworking of the law, and I will come to completion by that, with that which is mine by divine right. It's so much easier, having lived through the many things I've lived through in my time. It's challenging in the beginning, but as you begin to utilize spiritual law, as we begin to be cognizant of our thoughts and our feelings, and to ask ourselves questions, is this who I want to be? As I am willing to ask myself, what do I truly want for myself? And is what I'm doing putting me on that pathway? There's a lot of questions that we can ask ourselves that as we begin to do that become so easy that they just seem natural. They're just a part of ourselves. It's just a part of how we live. And that's what I want for you, to be able to play this game we call life and to come forth from this game with pure joy, to create the life you most want, to create a life that you are excited to get up with and say, hey, do you know what I get to do today? And then when you go to bed, you can say, wow, what a wonderful day. What a wonderful day I had. It unfolded in such perfection. So to be able to be in perfect harmony with the working of spiritual law. Would you change the slide again, please, Chris? My endless good now comes to me in endless ways. My endless good, your endless good now comes to you, comes to me in endless ways. God is our resource. The work that we do is to get in harmony with spiritual law, to get in alignment with spiritual law, to spend that time in meditation, to live from our intuition, to stand in full faith, knowing that if the sparrows are taken care of, so are we. Trusting with faith that only good can come out of any situation, so that we can live in endless joy, in endless happiness, or endless blank, whatever you want to put into that blank. Let's take these thoughts into meditation, holding them in our hearts and in our minds. What do you most want? If there's something that you want Reverend Mindy or myself or this community to hold in prayer with you, I invite you, if you feel comfortable, to put it in the feed, in the Facebook feed. Or if you're watching this on YouTube later, put it in the YouTube feed. We will take those and we will hold them in our daily prayer practice. We'll put them in the prayer box so that each of us can learn how to play the game of life effectively, to play it in a way that we experience life as we would like to experience it. So I'm going to invite you to take a breath. Come into that place of love in your own heart. And just breathe there for a moment. Endless joy. Endless love. That all our supply, meaning all that we need, is available to us. We have to practice the spiritual law. Where am I out of alignment with that law? Ask yourself that question. Maybe you're not, but maybe you are. Sometimes when I ask myself that question, I think, well, I'm not at all. But when I truly ask it from my heart, I receive the answer. And sometimes it's self-care. And sometimes it's something that I've been avoiding that it's time for me to face and move through the discomfort of it. But knowing that even then I'm supported. I'm supported by love. Knowing then that I can have some control over how my life unfolds by practicing spiritual principles. That I do not have to live in hopelessness or helplessness. I do not have to live in sadness and in pain. When I am able to begin to focus on what is subconsciously coming forward from my past, and how do I allow that divine nature that I am to love, support, and infuse whatever's going on, and then listen deeply. How do I listen so deeply? I hear the answer. I get the sign that even I cannot miss, because I'm playing fully in the game of life, giving and receiving what I would like to get back. Being love, being peace, being harmony. And what comes back to me then is love and peace and harmony. How do I live in such a way that I can fly, that I can be fully myself, that I can look at what is and decide I want something different. I want to live a different life. I want to give up the good life for a better life. I want to live in infinite potentiality and direct my thoughts, direct my words and my deeds, and hold them in gratitude, being mindful that I am engaging in the game of life, practicing spiritual law, so that as I live day by day, I can open up to joy. I can open up to love. I can open up to peace. I can open up to the harmony that is within each of us. And as I see it in me, I'm going to see it in others. I'm going to move past appearances, and I'm going to emanate the energy of the heart that wants only the best for myself and another, which will bring prosperity, which will allow us to create a planet that is filled with love, so that we can break away from the old and step into the new and create the life we most want to live.
Small town, and when the rain would fall down, I'd just stare out my window, dreaming of what could be, and will I end up happy? So I'd pray, trying hard to reach out, but when I could try to speak out, I felt like no one could hear me, dreaming of what could be, and will I end up happy? I would pray I could break away. I'll spread my wings and I'll learn how to fly. I'll do what it takes till I touch the sky, and I'll take a risk, take a chance, make a change, and break away out of the darkness and into the sun. I won't forget all the ones that I love, and I'll take a risk, take a chance, make a change, and break away. Da 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 da, da 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 da, da 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 da. Da 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 da, da 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 da, da 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 da.
You've touched or inspired by something you heard or something that sparked in you as you tuned into Unity of Wilmington, we invite you to share that generosity of inspiration with others and the generosity of gratitude with Unity of Wilmington. You can give to Unity of Wilmington on our webpage, unitywill.com, on Facebook, or find us on Venmo.
I invite you over the course of this next week to do your own experiment with the game of life, to be mindful of your thoughts, your words, and your deeds, to be mindful of what you put into action, and watch what returns to you.